One. We're back, guys.
As you can see, we have a guest today. I'm very excited about our guest. This is one that I've been saving because I was like, it needs to be like the perfect time. So,
because you were supposed to come like season 3.
Yeah.
The end of season 3, but everything happens for a reason. It was meant to be for season 4.
Yeah. Season 4, we're focusing on women and all things that encompass women.
Yes.
And so we thought mental health, taking care of yourself, was definitely part of that, because I think some women get lost in all of their other duties and titles and don't really take care of themselves. So, yeah. So, as everyone knows, we like to have our guests share 3 things about themselves that's not tied to what they do for work. But we're going to do it a little different today. And Peggy and I are going to share, and then she'll share hers. So, Peggy.
3 things about myself? I'm very heavy on self-care. So I really am adamant at least one weekend out of the month. I try. There's some months that every weekend that is busy, but I try to have something where I designate a day. Even if I take that mental day from work where I call out, I use a sick day to take care of myself, to recharge, and maybe catch up on some errands. I really enjoy watching documentaries, not gonna lie. Yes, I watched Jeffrey Dahmer stories, all of it from episode 1 to episode 10. Yes, I watched it. Serial killers do not faze me. It just makes me mindful of the fact to be aware of my surroundings and be aware that I probably could have walked by a killer one day. I don't know. And lastly, I'm gonna go with what you said too. What I would like to do is retire before I'm 40.
Hey.
Retire, because working is ghetto. I do not see myself working until I'm 65. Like, who thought of that? And why?
So you're planning to retire in the next 4 years?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm here for it. I'm here for the optimism.
Yes.
Okay. Are you good?
Yes.
Okay. So I think for the 3 things for me, I'm gonna change it up because we shared it at one point.
I believe so. Yeah.
I love art and everything about art. I love musicals, plays, Broadway shows, abstract art, poetry, music, everything art. I prefer that over anything else. Like, I'm not an outdoorsy girl. I hate the outdoors. I hate bugs. The only thing I truly enjoy outdoors is like hiking, because it's kind of like a mental cleanse. So there's that. So I like hiking. I love art, and I do not want kids. I think that's it. That's
and you've said it before. So.
I said it 101 times. I won't repeat it again.
Nothing wrong with that. It's okay.
Yeah, I love myself too much to share my personal time with anyone else.
I feel that. I love our babies, but I feel that.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. My name is Najla. I'm here because I am a mental health therapist, and these lovely ladies invited me. 3 things about me before we get into that. I love to write. I've always liked to write. I was like one of those like 7, 8-year-olds who always had a journal. I would like bash my brother in there all the time, but it was still writing. What else? I love him though. That's my best friend. That's besides the point. What else? I love music. My kid's dad makes fun of me all the time because every time a song comes on, I study the lyrics. I will literally go on the little app and look up the lyrics so that as it's going, I'll play it like 10 times to learn it. I'm very much so a person that will listen to music based on my mood, and it helps just release whatever I need to release. Keisha Cole was my jam back in the day.
Oh my God, she got me through a lot.
Music is very universal.
Teenage self. I don't know what nothing is. That's good.
And the last thing, I love learning. Like, I am forever learning. I enjoy reading. Right now I'm reading The Atomic Habits, which is amazing. Please read that. Please read that. Like,
Atomic Habits.
Atomic Habits is a game changer.
So can I that? Atomic Habits. Ask, is it revolved around how to break bad habits and cultivate better habits?
Yep.
Okay, because she knows I'm a procrastinator. I don't know. It just gotten worse over the years. Like, right now it's like disgustingly bad. Like I'll wait till the very last 30 minutes. So yeah, someone was like, you probably need to read this. So
Yeah, no, I'm the same. Honestly, I'm the same way. I'll have like notes that are due when it comes to like after I see my clients, and it's a lot. You know, I'll be saying, why did I do this to myself? Like I ask myself that every single week.
Yeah.
But ever since reading this book, like it's just it lets you know you are basically what you do. So if you want to be something, you got to do it. If you want to read, then you should be setting aside 15 minutes a day to read, and therefore you became a reader, right? Or like even a writer, like you don't have to write a whole book, but if you want to like become a writer, you spend like 5 minutes of your day writing something. Now you just officially became a writer because you're doing it. So
you know, it's funny. I have so many book recommendations that are still sitting waiting to be read. Like Really Love. I think that's what it's all about. Love by Bell Hooks. Have you ever read that?
No.
Oh my god, that has been sitting in my room for like 2 years now. The Will Smith book. There's so many. But anyways, so as she mentioned earlier, she is a mental health therapist,
Licensed mental health counselor, so LMHC for short.
LMAC for short. I think we'll get to that part. Anyways, we thought it would be a great idea for just to kind of pick her brain and kind of help anyone who is thinking about going to therapy, and what they should expect, what they should look for, how they should go about it, and so on and so forth. So I wanted to ask you first, how did you get into, like, what kind of pushed you to get into therapy?
Okay, so first of all, when I first went to school, it was not for no therapy. I wanted to be a doctor, a pediatrician. I got to college, St. John's University in New York. I was all excited, had all my science classes. And then I met chemistry. And then I was like, yeah, this is not going to cut it. This is not me. But I was taking a psychology course at the same time. And then I was like, this seems very interesting. I like this. And then my second year, I told my mother, I'm not pursuing that anymore. I don't want to do biology. I want to switch to psychology. I really feel like this is me.
Right.
She was kind of against it at first, but then she was like, whatever you want, I support you. Go for it. So that's kind of how I got into it at that point.
Yeah.
But I was always everyone's like go-to person. You know? So like that too kind of, I never really thought of it from that perspective, but then once I was actually taking the classes, I was like, I do this anyways, like why not learn how to do it?
I know Peggy goes to therapy. I don't know if you always talk about it. When someone is looking for a therapist, what should they be looking for? Where should they be looking? And like, what are some tips to find one?
Okay. So one of the questions I'll answer first is where to find one. The pages that I'm on is on psychologytoday.com. There's another one called innopsych.com, Clinicians of Color, either .com or .org. But you could also find Clinicians of Color on innopsych. That's mainly, that's what they're mainly about as well.
Never knew that.
Yeah, so those three ones, you can ask like your insurance providers also, who can send you a list of in your area. Like if you call them, be like, oh, I want to do therapy. Who's in my area? They'll give you a list of people who you can reach out to. What else? You can ask, like, you can probably send messages to therapists. A lot of them have referral lists of people who are actually taking clients like right then and there. So that is something you could also do. But what you're looking for, I often tell people, don't go in there looking for something, right? Because the purpose is not them necessarily, right? You're going in there for a particular reason, like you want healing, you want to talk, like process something. Maybe you're grieving, somebody just passed away and you're like, I can't do this by myself. Or you're having like suicidal thoughts, I don't want to be here, like I'm on the brink of probably gonna do something, but I don't want to, so who do I talk to, right? So you want to go in there for like reasons. And it doesn't have to be that. Sometimes you just want someone to talk to, right? So something as simple as that. Somebody that doesn't know your story, someone who's not going to judge. But I mean, cultural background matters to certain people, right? You want someone who also you feel like would understand you. I hear that all the time. A lot of my clients who come to me who are Haitian, I don't say I'm Haitian off the bat, right? So like they'll tell me that they're Haitian and I'm like, oh, okay. And then as time goes on, I let them say what they're saying. Like, yeah, you know, I always have a hard time like meshing with like white therapists or like, you know, I want somebody that understands me, and I'd be like, well, I'm your girl, and then I'll say something in Creole, or I'd be like, oh, I'm Haitian. All the face just lights up. They're like, but how Haitian?
God.
I
guess there's levels.
There is levels. So I'd be like, I grew up with my grandparents Haitian. Like, I speak Creole Haitian. Like, I know the food Haitian. Like, your parents talk shit to you? That type of Haitian. But they love you. And they're like, okay,
such
you got
warped.
it.
So you
Isn't it warped though?
Yeah, you just said something that I'm slowly like diving into. Your parents talk shit to you, but they love you. It makes me sad because I'm like, that's their form of like loving on you, because that's all they know. But it makes me sad because I'm like, dang, I really wish you had it differently. Like, me and my siblings are constantly breaking like bad habits that we've learned from our parents and their form of like how they show love, because we know what it did for us, what it did to us. Not to say, and me and Peggy have mentioned this 101 times, we'll never blame our parents because they only know what they know. But we also need to identify that no longer suffices, right? Like, especially now in this generation. So when you say that, I'm like, yeah, they loved us, but did they enjoy it when they were younger? Like, I'm sure they didn't enjoy being spoken to like that.
Like, I can relate on that level, but at the same time, my mom necessarily, she just wasn't the I'm gonna talk ish to you type.
No.
She'd look at you. You feel stupid. Like, dang, why'd I just do that? You know, but like, it was never like a speaking down. Like, just before we hopped in, I'm so proud of you. Good job. Like, I can't wait to watch the podcast. Like, cute. You know what I'm saying? Like, stuff like that. I'm like, okay, thanks, Mom. I feel much better. Like, okay, I'm ready now. I can do that. You know? Like, it's just that motivating kind of spirit about her. But I'll see, my grandmother was like that too with her, but she was more of the I'm gonna talk ish, and you won't hear it. They won't rough. Shut your mouth and accept it.
Yo, the shutting your mouth.
They're very rough.
My nieces have challenged that, like I did, and I'd be there like, oh my god, why are you talking to her like that? Like, I remember I used to like fight with my nieces. I'm like, you don't talk to adults like that. You don't talk, because that's how I was raised. But there was like, I only give respect to people that give respect. I'm not gonna give you respect because you're older and you can just talk to me however you want. And it took a long time for my family to receive that well, but essentially everybody comes to her the way she wants to, because she's created those boundaries. And low key, I'm jealous, to be quite honest, because I'm like, oh, I wish I could talk to her like that. She's a bitch. but I grew up like they're older. You don't talk to them. Crazy.
Craziness. That's why I'm still slightly appalled when kids. I mean, there's a level of I get it. Like you are supposed to respect everything, even as much as I hate bugs, even the smallest creatures on this earth, you gotta respect them to the biggest things. And as humans, I think we forget that, and a lot of it's cultural. Like, oh, I was here first, I was born first, you gotta respect me. Yes, I'll respect you, but you also have to respect me too. You've only been here long enough because you were born first, but that doesn't necessarily mean you know everything. And that's a culture thing. They think I'm an adult, I know everything. No, because even at 36, I'm still discovering stuff because of my students. And it's like, even if I wasn't teaching, I'm not saying I wouldn't have learned those things, but it'd probably be a little bit later because I'm not around teenagers. And there's things they're hipping me to. I'm like, oh, I didn't know that. But people fail to realize, like you said, you have this love of learning. Like, you never stop learning. And I constantly remind people, like, my dad used to tell me, the day you stop learning is the day you die. That's the only time learning stops. But from now until you have breath in yourself, you should be open and willing to learn new things. And don't think because of your age, oh, I'm too old to learn that. It might take longer, but you should still have access to learn things. But them thinking, like, I kind of started to do what your niece was doing when I was like 17, 18. Like, you know, I know they're my aunt, they're my uncle, but they can call me too. Like, they can hit me up too and check on me. Why do I have to check on them? And I say, I was like, oh, you know, because c'est comme un like, they're adults. I'm like, I get it, but they can check on me too. I don't mind. Like, I'm a child. I shouldn't be searching for you. You're the adult. Hit me up, and then that keeps the process going. That's why I'm like, my nieces and nephews, they'll hit me up, and I hit them up to check on them, because it shouldn't just be a one-way street where they're supposed to hit me up because I'm older than them. No, like, no. It should be a two-way street communicating with the younger generation. But I totally feel you on that. And our generation and the younger generation trying to break that curse that it was normalized back then.
Mhm.
Now we're like, oh no, we're not taking that.
Mhm. Yep. I remember specifically, and I think I've shared this, but I was 16 and my mom was like, school and home. And
Yep.
she made sure that I went to high school with my cousin. So my cousin was like, both y'all need to come home together. And if one's home before the other one's, y'all both getting it. Like, y'all both, like, y'all gotta be responsible
We
for
all
each
get
other.
beat.
Right, we all get beat. One for all for one.
Yep.
And so I told my cousin, like, hey, I really want to go hang out with my friends after school. Can you just, like, hold off for, like, another hour, and then we'll walk in together?
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, cool. But, of course, I didn't have a cell phone at the time, so it was kind of just, like, hoping that we're both on the same page.
Right.
I get home with my best friend, and my mom and my aunts and my mom's sisters would, before my mom went to work, they would all sit at the table, have, like, early dinner, and just discuss the day. Because my mom was the only one that stayed home during the day, and they all went to work in the morning. So my mom would kind of recap, like, all right, like, this is what the kids did, the kids ate, blah, 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 because she would take care of us, you know, when we got home from school. And I walk in, and my mom was like, where were you? I was like, oh, I was with Sandy. And she was just like, that's funny, because Sandy's home. And there's my aunt, like this. See, when they start going to high school, they just think they're the adults, and they can just do whatever they want. And I was like, you need to mind your business. And my mom was like, don't talk to your aunt like that. And I was like, but she needs to mind her business because one of her daughters is pregnant and she's not even 18. I didn't even see my mom get up.
Death
She
penalty.
slapped the hell out of me. Because my mom already gave me like a warning, like watch your mouth. And I didn't. I was trying to show up in front of my friend, right? And mind you, my friend doesn't know a lick of Creole. So she was like, what? And all she seen was my mom slap me and she was like, I'll see you at school tomorrow.
Yeah.
And I was so embarrassed because my mom was like, she
embarrassing.
gave us a chance, like, all right, check yourself.
Yeah.
You're treading waters that you don't want to be in. And I was just like, now I'm gonna say my piece because now I'm embarrassed.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
But
so,
you see, there's right and wrong ways of doing things, right? Because I feel like cultures don't allow that piece of communication, like you was talking about, like.
Mhm.
We don't know how, so
Yes.
off rip, we're gonna go to what we know, which is attitude, which is I'm gonna talk to you how you talk to me,
Mhm.
which is rec.
Yeah.
So, and that's what ends up happening. But it's like, no, there's a right way of saying that. Like, yo, auntie, like, actually, do you mind like talking to my mom in private instead in front of my friend?
Yeah.
Like, it's kind of embarrassing, or
Yeah.
I don't want you to. Nope, it was straight.
Yeah.
They didn't
Well,
care
this
who
was
was
going
around.
on.
It was like I came to like a whole Senate seat and they're just all staring at me like this little bitch got home late. They were all just standing there mean mugging, and then my aunt had to say her piece. But you just said something that's very pivotal, and a lot of the reasons why I don't have great communication skill. Things were told to me. It was never expressed. Like, can you like express yourself? It was like do what I say and don't ask any questions. So like communication has been definitely one of the things that I've struggled with. Like I go straight to anger. I go to anger. I'm cussing you out. And I'm not good at like talking back and like talking shit back and forth. And if I embarrass myself and stutter, oh, we have to fight now. Like now I'm embarrassed. Now I'm embarrassed, so we have to fight.
That's so funny.
Because when I get that angry, like if I'm doing too much talking, I stutter, and then that stutter creates,
and
embarrassment.
I'm cry, and if you let me cry, forget it.
Yeah, I was about to say that crying.
Once I stop crying,
that.
just leave the
Yeah.
premises.
Yeah.
Disperse.
Because people are, oh, she's crying. She said, no,
No,
I'm crying
I'm
because
anger.
I'm pissed. Like,
Yeah.
now I can't say or do what I want.
Yes.
This is how it's coming out.
Yeah.
So move.
Yeah,
Like, just get away.
Right.
Literally.
So do you find that like a lot of, and I know that there's a level of like confidentiality, but do you find patients that you've had have issues with communication? Because I wouldn't even know where to start if I found a therapist. Like,
So how do you do it? Okay, so that's, I mean, we're going to piggyback onto what we were saying before too, right? Of what you're looking for. Another thing that you're looking for is somebody who can be okay with silence, right? Because sometimes people will come and it's like a lot of therapists will feel like they have to break the silence or they have to get the person to talk. Nah, sit in your silence. Like, this is what you're asking for right now. This is what you need. You're not comfortable enough yet. Okay, like, obviously I'm not going to make it like super quiet and awkward, right? It's like, we're going to have like formal conversations. Like, we don't have to get deep. I'm not going to get deep till you want to get deep. You have to tell me something first for me to be like, okay, let's explore that a little bit.
Right.
Or you said this. What was that like for you? Like, let's talk about that emotion that you felt. It's more about what happens to your body, more about what happens to your in that thought process, and then we explore it. Then we can backtrack to why is it like that. Like for you, if you were coming like, I got anger issues, okay, let's talk about why. Where did that come from? Where did you learn anger? What is your first interaction with anger ever? What could you remember? Right? And by that, you would begin to like really dive deep into, okay, that's why I get mad. And the moment you find out why you get mad, then when you are getting mad, you're like, okay, I'm not there anymore. That's not where I'm at. Wherever I was when I first encountered that, I'm not there right now. You can separate the two.
Right? Remind me of my therapist session when I was telling her how like I get really upset or damn near angry when people say, oh, you get so defensive. And I'm like, but I'm not. I'm just passionate about something and I'm explaining my piece, and that's that. And I think people take it as when I'm expressing myself, oh, you get so defensive. I'm like, because for me, in my mind, defensive means to me defense, and in a sense it means to me, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not defending a client. I'm just literally telling you, this is how it happened, this is how I feel, and I'm upset about it. And well, but you're getting defensive. And I get instantly heated. My ears literally turn red. And how you ask that question, that's what my therapist said. What happened to your body when someone said, ooh, you're getting defensive? I'm like, oh my God. My face turns red. I feel hot. My head, like my ears turn red. I hate that. I'm like, and literally my heart starts beating fast. I can literally hear my heartbeat through my ears. Like I'm feeling it. She was like, okay, so what's making you, and I started telling her, like, I feel like someone's making it feel as though I'm defending a case, but I'm not. I'm just telling you, you made me upset, and that's that. Or I'm telling them this is what happened and this is why I got upset. And they're like, well, you're getting so defensive. I'm like, no, I'm just passionate. Sometimes I raise my voice and I'm not yelling because I've seen myself yell before. And I know the difference between when I'm yelling and when I'm raising my voice. Because it's like when I'm, I think, and then she's like, well, what part of that took you there? I'm like, well, as a kid, when you do something wrong, Haitian parents will punish you, and then sometimes they'll ask you, why did you do it? So I'm constantly having to explain myself, well, this is why it happened the way it did. One of those episodes how we said we're constantly over-explaining ourselves to a certain extent that we don't need to explain to that person all the reasons why we did what we did. But I spent my childhood doing that. Like, after you got beat, and put on punishment, and then you gotta explain, you gotta say first you're sorry and explain why you did it. I spent a good chunk of my childhood doing that, so I think as an adult, I have to do that. I have to explain myself and why I did it. And some people are like, well, you ain't got to explain that to me. Why you explain that to me? I'm like, I'm sorry. I thought you needed to know that information. So trying to break that, and then the moment you said that question, I'm like, yo, that's what my therapist asked me. Like, how did your body feel when the person said you was getting defensive?
Do you ever, like, when having these conversations that are, like, super deep and, like, you can tell they're, like, digging deep where they've suppressed and don't want to, like, revisit, do you pay attention to body language?
I have to, right? Because just as I would ask you, what is it that you're feeling? We're asking that for a reason, right? Because like I said, you want to be able to identify like how your body's being affected, because the reason why your body gets affected, first of all, is because your brain is alerting your body that the sun's up. Right? So when you're upset, your body wants to match that energy, right? So it's to help that, you have to identify when it's happening. That way you can calm your body down. Yo, I'm good. Let's deep breathe a little bit. Let's go meditate real quick. Let's go listen to music. Let's go for a walk, right? These different things that you would do, right? You would consider these as coping skills to like really deal with that present. So that way you can start thinking logical, because especially we are women. We are more emotional than logical. And can we say that?
Oh,
you ain't see that episode? It slipped up.
Okay, so if that is something that is challenging for you, especially as a woman, right? We go straight to the emotion first, because like you said, we get very passionate. Men too, but women on a different level, right? So it is very, very necessary to learn how to calm your body first, then approach the situation.
Okay.
It's so easy to go to your coping mechanisms, like, or your coping skills when you're in those feelings, but to have to kind of like retrain your brain to like, this is now the new coping. Because for me, I'm so comfortable getting angry. It's safe for me. It's familiar. And it's quick. It's instincts, right? So when people say like, oh, breathe, I'm like, I don't want to fucking breathe. I want to punch her in the face. And when people try to give me new coping skills, I'm like, shut the hell up. I don't care. Because I'm not, like, my brain is like, no, we don't listen to nobody when we're mad. Like, just do your own thing. And I think a lot of the times I have to kind of like sit, like I'm passive in a way where if I'm angry in the moment and I can't really like be angry, I just shut down. Like I just stop talking. We're not having this conversation, and it's not good because now I'm in my brain and I'm just building stories and ideas and emotions and all these things that were never there, but because I can't, like, I don't feel comfortable expressing what I'm feeling, I'm just creating these crazy thoughts in my head. Like, it's so bad. So bad.
You said something right now, right? It kind of goes with the question you just asked about, like, how do you handle clients who are quiet? Because we'll get clients who shut down all day, every day, right? And it's like, I'm not tooting my own horn, but I don't have a lot of that.
Yeah.
And I think what happens is because, again, I'm very relatable. So, like, if they're telling me something, like, I'll probably throw in a few examples. Oh, yeah, I understand that. Like, this is how I encountered this. Like, you know, we're not supposed to give a lot of information about ourselves. But to me, it's like, how can you connect with somebody? How do they feel comfortable to connect with you? I'm not a robot, right? So it's like we go through a lot of similar things, especially, again, because they find me on InnoPsych, clinicians of color, right? So a lot of my clients are African American or Haitian or whatever culture, Caribbean, you know, a lot of them will come find me like for the purpose of I can connect with her. And another way to look, I would say, I personally would prefer somebody around my age, you know, or older. I purposely do not, I had a therapist who was probably, I would say like in her 50s. She was my first therapist. I appreciate her for what she provided, but the level of connection that wasn't there that I have right now with my therapist who is around my age is totally different. Right. So the conversations are totally different. You know, the way I speak to her is totally different. Like the one who in the 50s, I felt like I can't swear, I can't, right? It's like a level of respect, again, as we talk about how our parents teach us, like, so I think that matters too, but again, everybody's different. So if you prefer an older person, go for it.
Yeah,
you know?
I think my sister has an older therapist, but she's still relatable. Like, you can still swear, you can still act crazy, you can tell her like memes and stuff, and like things that like pop culture would like push. She understands. Like she's older, but she's not like grandma.
No.
So I think you're right. It's really how you relate to your therapist. Because my cousin was adamant on finding a black woman therapist, and she didn't really have much success in that. And so somebody recommended a holistic older man. He's very hippie. When you go to his office, this is before COVID, you would sit on like Indian style on the floor, and he's just like, all right, let's just do some breathe. And she's like, what? But she's earthy crunchy in that way, so it kind of worked out for her. And he's white, older man. He's probably like late 50s. And she loves him.
Yep, that works for her.
Yeah, and but there are some culture differences where she has to like, I unfortunately can't tell him this because he's gonna think it's bizarre. He's probably gonna call DSS or like, you know what I mean? And so I was like, that's probably when you need to like, when you need to get to that part of your life that you want to like, declutter or whatever. Maybe you need a new therapist because he's not gonna understand. Right now, he's helped you this far. He's helped you for 4 years, but this part of your life that you want to kind of figure out and like understand better and kind of like let go of, he's not gonna understand.
Yeah, with people, right? They oftentimes will think that like the therapist doesn't understand. I have encountered that as well, even for my age, right? When I first started, I was 26 when I graduated, but I was an intern, right, at that age, and I would get a lot of people who were like, "You're really young, like I don't know about this," and I'd be like, give me a month. If you don't like it, we will transition you out easily. We have so many other therapists who you could work with. And none of them ever switched out, right? So it was like, I was like, it doesn't matter about age. Teach me, right? Tell me. If I don't know something, I'm like, okay, I don't actually know that. I don't understand that about the culture. Explain that to me so I can better understand you. Right. Right? And you could go that route too. But if you have that therapist who's not willing to do that, you know, then that's not going to be helpful to you.
Like when I was looking for my therapist, I found her through this page. I don't know if you follow it, Therapy for Black Girls, and they had a directory, and you put in what city you live in, whatever, and they try to find one close to your vicinity and what they specialize in. And the one I did find, she had like a 15 to 20 minute phone consultation, get to know her a little bit. And, you know, I was asking her questions, and that's another thing I tell people, like, first do the research, right? And see what they specialize in, because there's some therapists that only focus on particular things. So if your thing is getting over trauma, but this therapist doesn't focus on trauma, don't go to that therapist. I'm not saying it wouldn't be useful, but if you want to heal over a particular trauma, then you need to go to a therapist that focus or that's within their range. And I ended up finding her, and I was on the phone with her, and I said, you know, what made you want to go into therapy? Similar like how we asked you that question. And she really started telling me similar, like, you know, I was the go-to person for my friends and family. And, you know, going into school, I realized I had that inkling in me. And we ended up being on the phone for like 40 minutes instead of a 15-minute session. And that's how I came about going to that particular space. And then I ended up finding another therapist within that realm. Now she's more private practice, but I love the way she's flowing with me that I end up following her. But I always say, almost damn near every episode, therapy is important. You don't have to necessarily go because something has happened to you. It can, like we said, it could be someone to talk to, because there's only so much you can tell your friends and family, because I feel like they love you, so they can have a certain type of bias that a therapist wouldn't give you because they don't know you in that aspect. And eventually they'll get to know you, but they'll still be unbiased. But I wanted to throw in there, why?
Can we get on that? So Peggy knows, right? I have a few people in my life that I go to for everything. Peggy doesn't think they're sufficient enough because they're not licensed to kind of help me through my stuff, because she thinks they're biased. And I'm like, I don't have yes man people around me.
Well, bias doesn't mean yes man.
Yeah, it's two different things.
Yeah.
But in my head, like, if I was to have an issue, they would tell me, like, they would help me to, like, figure it out, like, understand it better.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be
but
like...
But therapist gonna ask certain questions for you to figure it out.
But I'm always in my head anyway, so I figure it out anyway, so...
See?
Your best friend can't be your therapist.
Oh my goodness. See? I don't know, I just... Okay, so in my head, because this is just me thinking, right? I believe... Because a lot of people are like, oh, you don't remember that? I'm like, no. Like, my cousins, because we all grew up, there was 9 of us every day, Monday to Monday. Like, we were always together. And they're like, oh my God, remember that day? And I'm like, no. And then I'm like, oh my God, am I suppressing certain things because of, like, the trauma that it associates with? And that's the fear that I have. The suppressing of whatever I was suppressing for whatever reason, because I don't remember. Everyone else like, you don't remember when we went here? And I'm like, no. I'm fearful of what that's gonna look like when it comes up, right? Like, if you ask the right question, if the therapist asks the right question, and it like triggers the memory, and then now I'm like, wait a minute, because I've seen some family members who've been through therapy like go through deep depression. People that I found to be super strong, and I'm like, oh my God, I have to be that person for you because you was always that person for me. But because you're going to therapy, you're figuring out your life and like what that looked like and all the trauma and like unraveling that. You're in depression, and I don't want to be there. I don't even have the capacity to go through that right now.
You don't have to go through depression though.
I know, but who's to say? That's not a guarantee that I won't.
It's not a guarantee that you will though, but you're choosing the route that you feel like you would.
Yeah. No, I have a feeling. No, I have a, like, I don't know what it is, because when they talk about the things that we went through as kids or what we did as kids, and I'm like, oh.
Can I tell you how amazing your brain is? You're amazing. Well, I said you're amazing. You are amazing. But your brain will never make you experience something you're not ready for. So this is why things are pushed back. Right? Because your brain's like, you're not ready for that yet. We're not about to think about that.
Yeah.
So if you are in therapy, when you are in therapy, right? When you are in therapy and those things start to come up, it's because you're ready for it.
Yeah.
And you just gotta embrace it and take it and be like, okay, this is what's happening. Like, this is my reality. This is what's about to go down. Like, we about to do this. And know that it's okay.
Not because the therapist asked the right questions and I just came diarrhea of the mouth, and because when I get nervous, I'm just like running my mouth, like.
But you're, like I said, you could have done that now. You could have been doing that with your friends.
Yeah.
But they presented a situation, you still didn't remember it. So one question, right? Even if we're able to get you there, again, your brain would not allow you to process it if it's not ready.
Yeah.
Because that's another key word, process.
Yeah. What, through in therapy?
Just in general.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, the way you process things is determined based on what you're ready for.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, I agree in that part, but... Yeah.
I've been saying this for the last 3 seasons. I want my friends to seek
But with
therapy.
the irony in all of this is because I see what therapy has done for the people around me. I always tell people like, you should go to therapy.
She's always telling people to go to therapy, but herself has not.
I actually attempted once. I went to go look for one because I'm like, all right, financially, I need to get something that's like close to like that would take insurance, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I went Blue Cross. Don't make it fucking easy at all. I was searching, and it was just when I tell you A through Z of like what type of therapy, I was like, I don't even know what this is. So I'm over here like Googling the name of the therapy, like what the therapies. I don't know what's the proper word, but like
their specialties.
Yeah, their specialties. And I'm like, I can't do this. I got so discouraged that I just turned it off. And I did email 2 therapists, but they were full. Like they weren't taking any new clients.
And then you stop.
Yeah, and I stopped. I was like, oh, that's gone. God's telling me it's not time. So I don't know. We'll get there one day. It is not today.
Honestly, the wait lists are crazy though. Like, especially since COVID.
Oh, I know y'all list been booming.
Oh my goodness, like it's a lot.
What's the max that you can have in patients?
It depends on your schedule. So for my schedule, because I have kids,
Mm-hmm.
so I want my day. I start my day at 10, and I'll see my last client at 3. So I'm done with my day by 4. But seeing people, that doesn't take account to notes, like I said, because I don't schedule. I need to schedule that better, right? I need to make my schedule a lot better. Like I know I'm gonna start seeing clients by 10, but I could probably start my actual work day maybe by like 9:39.
Yeah, I would assume that, and this is just me, like I would assume that you would probably do like on your kid's schedule, like they're in school right now. So
Right, that's what I do.
Yeah, okay, perfect.
Yeah, that's how I do it. So by the time I get out, now it's time, I rush right to go get my daughter from school.
Yeah.
You know, I have help, you know, so like I have like either her dad or a close friend of mine who lives in New Bedford too. Am I talking about my area? Yeah, I live in New Bedford. But anyway, so like she'll help me pick up too, you know, so it works perfectly, right? So like, but to answer your question about how many,
it depends on the schedule.
It just depends on everybody's schedule. Like, ideally, to avoid burnout, like you want to see between like 15 to 20. But will that pay your bills if that's all you're doing?
Yeah.
Then that matters. So it really depends on where you're at financially as well.
That's per week or something?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, 15, 20 clients per week. Yeah.
The question I was going to ask is, why is therapy important and why is mental health important, especially in this day and age?
Therapy is important because just as medical or, you know, you go to the doctor because you're sick. You're sick. We are, every single person on this earth is sick.
Yeah.
And we should all be in therapy. Like, legit. Imagine a world full of people in therapy.
Whew,
just imagine that really quick.
Crazy, right? The world would probably be a better place.
Honestly,
to an extent, yes.
Honestly.
But could you help someone who, like a Jeffrey Dahmer, if he went to therapy, would he be able to?
He's a psychiatrist.
I just finished watching that yesterday, so my mind is too fresh with that.
Yeah. But like someone who is mentally ill in that aspect.
You need somebody who specializes in that. So that's where Peggy was talking about, right? You need to make sure you're going to the right person. If somebody like that will come to me, I don't specialize in that. I'm judging you.
You did what?
Like my face. I'm really good at like.
Oh no, she would have to call. She would have to report it. She can't.
She would have to report that.
You have to report that you did what? Jeffrey?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm reporting right in front of you because. Actually, no, when he leaves, because.
Yeah, you don't want.
Oh, you'll be the next victim. Oh my god, he'll follow you home. It'll be a whole mess.
But no, seriously, like if there, I mean, but understand too, the dad in that knew he needed help.
Yeah, the signs.
But bias, right? As a parent for your child, you don't want to believe.
That's what scares me. I don't have kids yet. I would love to have kids, but that's what scares me. I don't want to build the bias like my child is perfect and they can do no wrong, when in fact there's a possibility. And yes, I created this person. You want them to be the best person they can be. I don't want them to be a version of me because they're their own person. But that's what scares me. And there's parts, like, I think it was episode 7 or 8 when the father's like, I didn't do enough. The signs were there. I should have done more. He's starting to regret, like, yo, my son is like, he's mentally not there. And him crying and regretting that, I'm like, I don't want to deal. I'm not saying I don't want to deal. I don't want to go through that. I want to be the parent that is open-minded. Like, the child I may have at home is not the child outside. And I deal with parents that are in full denial. Like, your kid is feeling because they don't
Oh my
do
goodness, can
anything.
we talk about that?
They don't do nothing. Well, he said he did homework. I'm like, he's a teenager. They lied. I was a teenager. I lied.
Oh my god, lied. I done forged signatures. It was
Forging
just
their
bad.
signature saying, yeah, my parents seen the report card. They didn't see the
They didn't
report
see
card
that.
because I was failing. But it's like, y'all gotta be honest with yourself. There's gonna be a point when the child discovers lying, and when they realize the lying got them somewhere, whether it's negative or positive, they're gonna either continue doing it because they realize, oh, I got away with it, I'm gonna continue. And if they got caught, they might find a better way to lie or stop it. But I don't want to be the parent where I have this bias where it's like, no, there's nothing wrong with my child.
You know what? And this is just my assumption. When a parent has to admit that their child is mentally ill in that way, it's almost kind of like admitting that they're a bad parent. Like that's how they associate it.
Yeah.
Not to necessarily say like, oh, there's a chemical imbalance,
Yeah.
and that he would think this would be okay.
But he started to kind of feel that way too. He's like, maybe it was the pills that the wife was taking at one point. He's like, maybe it was that. But then
Was he taking? I didn't watch it because
in the beginning of her pregnancy, there was a part where she says, I should be happy right now being pregnant, but I don't feel happy. It's not normal. And they just kept pumping her with meds.
Yeah.
Giving her barbiturates, and I'm like, that don't sound right. That sounds like he give you a
Yeah,
forced
that
abortion.
sounds archaic.
Very archaic. This was like the early 50s. So yeah, she was taking a bunch of medicine, and she never became herself. At one point, a counselor told her like, you suffering, you're still dealing with postpartum psychosis, and I don't know if that's even still a word, but postpartum psychosis, like she's
I think
still
what's
in
more
that element.
infuriating is like men not paying attention to their wives when they go into things.
Well, you know, guys,
And
remember
it's
the
assumed,
time period. Like, what is there else for you to do? You just gave birth. There's nothing wrong with you because the father disassociated with that. Because when she attempted suicide, Jeffrey called the police, got her the help, and he said, "Good job, kiddo." And then when Jeffrey's like, "Please don't leave," the father's like, "I gotta work," and then left.
Yeah.
So he was left.
And he was
alone
saying
to
that
do
how
the
she
mom.
was just seeking attention. So you know this is something that kept happening in
Right.
that household too.
Yeah,
You know.
that's so scary.
So all that that stuff can affect your child too.
100%. Yeah.
So that's why I was like, I'm not saying I feel bad for him because he did monstrous things, but I feel bad for him as a child.
Yeah.
He needed the attention from both his parents. He didn't get it. That's why I used to think, why are you telling someone not to leave, but you about to kill them, Jeffrey? Because he's like, please don't go. I'm like,
You
But
feel like
then
the child in him.
the
come
child
out?
in him. So when they started tracing back, like the episode we were talking about, like how he wasn't saying, I'm like, now I see why he says that. And it's like, and it's like,
I
remember we
think
talked
what
about our inner
blows
child.
my mind,
Yeah.
because I obviously I didn't see it, but I've been like seeing clips, and
Yeah.
we as a culture we like to make humor out of anything crazy.
Lord Jesus.
And they were saying how he kept telling like, I knew what I was doing. I knew what I was doing.
Yeah. He's like, I'm not crazy.
Is it crazy to do something like that? Even though you're like you're coherent and like I know this is wrong. You understand the like.
Okay, so
The
I
gravity.
don't know the exact answer to that.
Yeah.
What I will say, based on what I understand about the brain, is that the way trauma works is that so your brain is working a certain type of way.
Yeah.
Once a traumatic situation happens, all of a sudden it just rewires,
Yeah.
right? So, and now it's like who you just were before this traumatic event is a totally different person
Yeah.
after this traumatic event. Right, so these things that we're identifying that was like traumatizing or stressful to him as a child,
Yeah.
now is facilitating who is this individual growing up, right? Who is this? Who is he as a person? Who is he socially? Because clearly socially he wasn't there either, right? But it's interesting because he was able to gravitate towards people. People gravitated towards him.
Yeah.
His smirk, right, was again body language. We go back to that. He didn't look crazy, but when he was talking to the neighbor.
I'm sorry. If the pictures I seen, I would never go to his house.
Yeah, I get that, but like I said, when
the picture of him, like the real him.
Yeah.
no.
Like, would you if he came to you at a bar, would you be like, hey? But
I don't think naturally we would just being
I
raised
mean,
in the
I
Haitian
know.
household, and we're very similar in terms of culture, right? Like they're teaching you don't take drinks from nobody, don't be going to nobody's.
And you know me, I side.
There's no such thing as sleepovers. I don't know.
No such thing.
Okay,
Nope.
right? So like
My
you said,
friend
you
was
come
at my
home, you
house.
go to school,
Yeah.
like that was just the mentality. So if someone's like, "Oh, come to my house," no,
Yeah.
I was like. I didn't understand. I could not connect myself with those people who did.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like what? But there's people like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm always like, it always like blows my mind when I hear like these stories of like girls who like let their girl go and
Yeah. Nope.
with another guy, and now she's dead.
Mm.
I'm just like, I would never in a million years let my friend go with a guy
Yeah. No.
in her drunken state. If she was like sober,
Even in
then,
soberness.
I was gonna say even
Yeah.
then. I don't know. I don't think I've.
I don't
know
trust
I've
it.
never. I know I've never. But
And this is why us women, I mean, I don't do the clubs anymore, but during the club era, when we would dance with each other, or when we're going to the bathroom, we all go together.
Everybody's on hands. Let's go.
Like, yeah, let's go. Like, we don't let someone go to the
Yeah.
bathroom by themselves. Like,
Yeah.
we're all going.
yeah.
Especially in a club setting. Restaurant may be different, but club setting, we're all going together because there's too many variables, too many weirdos out here. And there are people who are hell-bent on harming people. And that's the scary world we live in. Like, since the dawn of time, people figured out a way to harm people. But the part that made my brain click a little bit is when you said, like, when you experience the trauma, your brain just rewires.
Yeah.
And I never knew that. I just thought, oh, my brain just suppressed it to the back of my head, so I don't remember.
It does that too.
Okay.
It does that too, right? This is why she just identifies she suppresses thoughts, right? So this is healing. Healing is allowing those thoughts to come to the forefront, processing them, meaning, how did this affect me? Why did it affect me the way that it did? What is the train of effects that happened to get me there, right? That's all about the processing. Now, how can I move forward? What do I utilize when I am being triggered? Because that's going to happen, right? Just because we talked about it doesn't mean we're not going to experience the triggers. Now the question becomes, what do I do with those triggers? And how do I move forward from that, right? So that's where I think, so with the brain, it redirects you. Let's say that word, right? It's going to redirect you in a different direction because your brain is telling you, protect yourself. Something just happened.
The fight or flight
Yes.
thing? Okay.
Yeah. So something just happened. What are we doing? Because we can't go through this again.
I know they always mention fight or flight, but I'm like, sometimes we need to add freeze because sometimes you freeze. Like, people like, when people, like, a lot of people when they was watching Jeffrey Dahmer, well, if that was me, blah, blah, blah. And then there was a meme that said, well, I thought you weren't gay, so why would you be in Jeffrey's house?
Well, to be fair, the guy that escaped, I was watching his trial, like, when he took the stand, and he was like, no, I'm not gay. Like, I'm not gay. He said he takes pictures for...
Yeah, that's how he was getting most of them too.
And I'm like, bro.
Yeah. So, a lot of people say, oh, if it was me, and when I was younger, when I was a teenager, I used to say that, like, oh, if it was me, like, when I watch movies, people trying to get to their house and unlock the door, like, oh, if it was me, I'll have the key ready. But then I guess I got older, there's certain situations where you think your brain's gonna do it, it doesn't do it. You freeze, you're like, and you're like, move, like, do something. But you're probably telling yourself to move, but your brain's not allowing your legs to move the way you do. It's almost like when you're in a dream and you're screaming and no one can hear you, but everyone's around you. And it's crazy how, like, the brain works. It's like, you think you know what you're going to do when you're in that situation, but you don't. So that's why I've learned not to say that anymore. Like, oh, if it was me, like, you don't know. Because you're not, especially when you're not, no one expects.
And that kind of minimizes the person that was actually experiencing that. Like, and I think that's not true. Like, and this is just off of Jeffrey, but like, if you hear a friend going through physical, mental, emotional abuse in a relationship, like, that was me, but it's not you, and the person is here is confiding in you, and you probably shouldn't be saying that, because now you're saying, like, you're dumb.
You're right.
And you should have never done that.
Because you don't know what to expect, especially if you're not expecting this person to do that to you.
Yeah.
Because when it happens, you're in shock, like, did you just hit me? You're like, you're frozen. You don't know if I should run or should I attack this person. You don't know. You're in shock. Because you typically, your body is in shock because you would never expect this person to do that.
That happens to me at work all the time because, to be fair, I've said to you a few times where there was some racially insensitive things that were said to me, around me, not about me, but like to me and around me. And I just was like, I froze. Like, in my head, I want to put this person in their place, kind of check them, right? But in my head, I just froze. And then the day went on, and I'm just like still processing it. And I'm like, did that just fucking happen? Yeah. Did that just happen?
And then all of a sudden, all the thoughts come to your head. What you want to say?
Yeah. And then it's too late. Like, how do I even bring this back up? Like, this person probably went about that day because they've never been checked on their racial insensitivity, especially their comments. So they don't think anything of it. They just going about their day and doing what they do. And I'm just here, like, processing it and kind of carrying it throughout the day. And it's, like, exhausting.
No, same. It's like, I think I brought it up, too. it's the double consciousness, especially as people of color, especially black people. Like, you're always wondering, did they say that because I'm black? Like, did you just say that because I'm a black woman? Because the stereotype of angry black woman is like, I'm constantly telling myself, well, I didn't want to say anything because I didn't want them to perceive me being angry, and I'm not. I'm just saying, maybe I can help you do this together, but you want to take heed and take the lead, that's fine. But it's like, like, we're always tiptoeing to avoid conflict. And I tell people I'm non-confrontational, but if you get me to that point, I do lose my mind. And that's why I'm like, when I'm at work, I think I shared it. They said black people are constantly saying, I need this job. That's the only reason why I'm not like, what the fuck did you just say? And it's like, I need this job. And I work around children, so you don't ever want, especially teenagers, you don't ever want to see them, let them see you out of character. Because they be like, oh, Millie Fossey went off the other day. She was like, bah. Like, I don't want them to ever see me in that aspect, especially at work.
Yeah, there's the whole like idea of like not saying or speaking up for yourself or standing up for yourself at work because you're the minority.
Yep.
I work. There's literally only one black person on my floor in my team, whatever. So complaining about racial insensitive comments that were made to me, I feel like I'm gonna be kind of isolated. I'm like, oh, don't talk to her. She's angry.
She's gonna get the HR department on us.
Yeah, she's gonna get the HR department on us, and so I've always been like just letting things slide. Do you have like that
experience?
Because I know now people are really seeking minority, like black and brown therapists, right? Because now
majority of my clients are black. But I mean, I'm trying to like identify with what you guys are saying because again, I have my own private practice, so I don't necessarily work with coworkers. You know, so but that's new. Like it's like it became a year this month that I went full time with my private practice. Before that, it was just part time, but I was working at an agency full time. But even at the agency I was working at, like I never felt discriminated against. Like they were very much let's move you up the ladder. Okay, supervisor, you have that material, become the supervisor. Like it was never, I never felt like they were trying to like put me in a corner. You know?
And I think this is my assumption anyways, but like therapists, they think differently, so I don't see a therapist being racially insensitive because their clients could be of the race. Like,
I see why you said
so
that.
you have like a different
you know, I think it just also depends on where you're working at, right? So the area I was working in, they were very much so cultured, I guess I should say, just because of the staff. Like we were very diverse, you know. So a lot of it, I think they were just used to that. You know, I'm sure when they get in their little cliques, you know, that's a little different. But like amongst us, we didn't see or feel that. They wouldn't do that, right? Especially because the Black Lives Matter was very big and like. They're very okay. That's how you feel. What do you think? We're having diverse groups now. Like,
but it's even the consciousness of knowing like this isn't my time to kind of argue my point. I just need to be like a support or like at least outwardly. Inwardly, who knows what they're feeling or thinking or saying, but like outwardly, like I'm going to just shut my mouth and be an ally or whatever. But I have a question for you. Have you ever had a client, and I don't know if this is like breaching client, patient, but have you ever had a client where you've had to be like, I can't take you?
No. Now that I want to.
Oh, did you ever have a narcissist?
No. No. I mean, I've had, so, okay, again, working at an agency is always nice because you get to hear other clients who has had that, right? So when I was a supervisor, I would have my supervisees who would have a narcissist and I had to help coach them through that. Right, so it's hard, right? Because the person they're very manipulative. They know how to like say things to you that make it like, okay, maybe this person's changing, and then it's the next day it's told like the next week is totally different. You know, so it's like my therapist who had clients like that is because they wanted that. They specialized there. Right, but if they did not, they would tell me like, okay, I don't think this is gonna be a good fit. This is why I'm feeling very biased off of this. So we talk about it, and then we'd go to the client, and be like, okay, let's see if it works for a little bit, and then if it doesn't, let's switch them out because you're doing more harm than good by keeping them.
So there are therapists that specialize in narcissism.
Right? Yeah, they'll study it.
I never knew. I just figured like.
But how would a narcissist like? I would assume a narcissist doesn't know that they're a narcissist.
They don't admit it.
Okay.
Some people do it. I be on TikTok all the time. They were like, oh, I'm a narcissist. Like they've been diagnosed and all that. They're doing videos like trying to like again like not really promote, but what's the word I'm looking for? They're trying to
like
glorify it.
Not glorify, maybe just show you from their perspective.
Okay. Yeah.
What it's like to live as a narcissist. Like they're the ones who like will admit it. But again, who's to say that they're diagnosed with TikTok, right? So they could say that and they're really not.
Right.
You know.
They never even seen a doctor in their life to diagnose.
Right.
Like
And everybody's so quick to be like, oh, that person's bipolar or that person's narcissist.
Oh my
like that person's depressed. You know, it's like.
Well, I'm gonna be honest. I usually confuse bipolar and schizo. Because I thought bipolar means you have different personalities.
With bipolar, right? I'm gonna speak on what I know now. I think I know. Okay, so with bipolar, people get it confused, right? Because yes, it is mood swings.
Okay.
Mood swings is definitely entailed, but it's really what I always try to tell people to focus on is the amount of days that these like your manic episodes happening. So like manic's like you can't sleep, you're up cleaning the whole entire house, like you're literally not sleeping. If you're sleeping, it's like an hour. Like in like a week period, right? So to differentiate between 1 and 2, bipolar 1 and 2 is the amount of days. Like you'll have 3 to 4 days versus like 5 to 7 days, which is like bipolar 2. But that's the only thing that's differentiating the two. It's the amount of days.
And bipolar doesn't necessarily mean like you're on this manic episode of like a cleaning binge and you're sleeping for only an hour. There's also bipolar depression, right?
Yes. So what happens? The reason why it's called bipolar is because you'll have. So say like you have 3 to 5 days, you're depressed. Then all of a sudden, 3 to 5 days, you're not depressed. You're manic. Like you're
this energy.
This boost of energy that it doesn't make sense. People are looking at you, look, you're okay. You're making impulsive decisions. Some people will go and shop. They'll buy a car when they couldn't afford it. Like they'll do these drastic things that are just like, okay, maybe that wasn't to your benefit by doing that.
Got it. Okay, what about schizophrenic?
Schizophrenic is when you're hearing voices.
Okay, there we go. Because that was confusing.
Yeah.
I was confused with.
I haven't worked with too many schizophrenic clients. I think I've had. It's like schizophrenia. So I think I had maybe one client, and that was like during my internship field, and he was very stable. Like, so it wasn't like he was hearing voices all the time. You know, like when they get to that period, they're usually hospitalized to get stabilized, and then when they come out, that's when they'll probably go like a partial program where they're going somewhere every day, but it's not like. You don't sleep there. Okay. It's more outpatient.
And that's different from you just having conversations with yourself.
You literally hear voices. Majority of the time it's very negative. Like, you're not worth it. Like, you suck. Like, you're ugly. Like, it's like they're literally saying messed up stuff.
Okay.
Yeah. And this is what this... So imagine just hearing that all day long.
Okay.
Here's where the depression comes from. Yeah. How are you happy in a constant state of negativity?
Okay. That would be similar to... I forgot the name of the killer. He said he heard his dog tell him, I think it was Son of Sam, told his dog was telling him that to kill these people that he had killed. I think it was like the 70s or 80s. I'm like, what? Your dog talks to you? It was just interesting. So would that be along the lines of schizophrenia?
Yeah, that's all under psychotic.
Okay.
Right? Totally out of the norm.
Okay.
Like,
so like an animate object like that. I'm like, it spoke to me and it told me to do this.
Yeah.
Okay. Just making sure. I'm not.
I'm about to say,
I'm not. No. You know how some people say, oh, it's fine to talk to yourself, but when you answer yourself, it's a little off. I'm like, no, there are times I ask myself a question to remind myself, did you turn off the stove? I'm like, oh, yeah I did. Like, that type of thing. I'm like, but I'm not crazy, though. That is literally me. Mental note, did you turn it off? And I literally try to remember, like, okay, when I walked by the stove, I did turn it off, type of thing. Because like, growing up, I used to hear people say, oh, if you answer yourself, then you're crazy. I'm like, what?
What about, like, the inner voice in your head, though? So how does that... We ain't crazy for...
Yeah.
Right?
I think it's normal to... I heard you're supposed to. There's some people that said... I was reading something that some people that said they do not have an inner voice. I'm like, you never heard yourself speak to yourself.
Oh my God, I'm constantly talking to myself.
I think I tell my inner voice to shut up.
We do dialogue. We do, like, mock conversations. I'm like,
you know, that was stupid, right? You know, I don't know. There are times when I think about embarrassing moments, like 10, 15 years ago. I'm like, yo, that was so fucking embarrassing. Like, really, Peggy? Like, damn, I shake my head. But it's already happened, I'm pretty sure.
I'm cringing inside.
Other people don't remember it, but I remember because it happened to me. And it felt embarrassing to me at that moment. And I'm like, I need to stop thinking about these things. Like, literally telling myself to not think about those embarrassing moments.
But you see how you say that, right? So it's interesting because I deal with anxiety, right? Heavy. So, like, I'll think about moments when I was in, like, middle school and high school and be like, that was anxiety. Right? So it's like even as you're talking right now, I'm like, that was anxiety.
Yeah.
Like, you'll think of all these moments where you were embarrassed, where you're like, oh my gosh, like this person said this is how I felt in that moment. But as a kid, when you're not taught, you can't identify that.
Mm-hmm.
So to you, you're like, this is just how I am.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? And granted, we all are anxious people. We move off anxiety.
Yeah.
We'd be late to everything if we didn't have anxiety.
No.
We would not be able to function if we didn't have anxiety.
That's what. Okay. I thought anxiety is like some people have it, some people don't. Cause growing up, I didn't know much about. A lot of us didn't know much about mental health. Cause growing up, I grew up in a household like, oh, mental issues. That's a rich man's problem. Oh, that's a white person's problem. I literally was like, oh, only white people got mental problems. You see, they're the serial killers. But then as I got older, I'm like, no, that's just not a rich person's problem. Anyone can have a mental health issue or need someone to talk to. And part of it is educating yourself. And I still feel as though in the Black community there's this thin line where I see it on social media where people say, this person wants attention. Or this person will say, oh, I have mental health issues. They'll do something, and the next week is something else. I'm like, well, there's probably another underlying cause. I'm like, the situation with Kanye. 1 minute, we don't hear from him. We're like, okay, he's doing better. Next minute, he's on this rampage. I'm like, didn't they diagnose him as bipolar or something? Or I don't know. I'm not his doctor. But we see him unraveling. And I'm like, okay, if he is prescribed meds, he must not be on his meds. That's why he's doing what he's doing. I don't think he's seeking attention, but we're giving him the attention that he's seeking that he shouldn't be getting. He should be getting the help that he needs or whatever. But I feel like when you said that part, I didn't realize that because I get anxious when I realize like, fuck, I'm going to be late. And I hate that after I told the person I couldn't be here.
She was anxious right before you got here.
I looked at the message you said, I'll be here in 11 minutes. I'm like, well, that was like 8 minutes ago. So she's probably outside. And then boom, you said I'm outside. I'm like, oh, I'm flustered out. I didn't put my makeup on yet. We still haven't fully.
If there's one thing that Mickey is she's on time for everything, and so like especially when her being behind affects other people, she's like, off the walls.
But what did I say when I walked in here? Did y'all hear what I said
about you being like?
Yeah, I was like, I'm mad anxious. I don't even know if you guys.
Okay,
said that.
I heard it. I heard when you said it. I was in the bathroom, but I heard when you said it.
Yeah. I was like super anxious, but again, right, like. Everybody has it, but everybody doesn't manage it.
Yeah.
Got it.
Right? So when it's not managed and it takes over, and that happens to me plenty of times. I'm not going to act like, oh, I got everything figured it out. Like, no, like, absolutely not. I'm still working on it. I have a therapist right now. We still working on that.
Yeah.
Like, how are you challenging your thoughts? How are you really trying to, like, go against what it is that you're telling yourself? Because what we always do is we think whatever supports us. Right? Just as you said earlier, I forgot what exactly you had said, so remind me, but like when I was like, okay, but you're choosing that route. You're choosing to believe that's what would happen.
Oh, like the depression. Once I dive into
that's
therapy.
because your anxious thoughts support that thought, and therefore that's the thought you're going with. But imagine if you counteracted that and you threw thoughts that didn't support that. Yeah. You would then move the other direction.
Yep.
Right? So we do that all
the
time.
And even to add to that, I said for me to learn a new habit on how to cope with whatever problems I'm going through, it seems so difficult and so like daunting that I'm comfortable going the anger route, that one that doesn't really help in any form or fashion. I'm like, oh, this is easy. It's right here. I already know it. I'm familiar. And so
this is why I told you Atomic Habits will be a life changer for you.
Yeah.
Because it goes into that, right? It definitely talks about that. It's like, how do you unlearn? Even as you were talking, I was like, that's because that's a habit. Yeah. Right. Mm-hmm. But a habit is what? It's just a repetitive behavior. Yeah. Literally. Right? And this is why he says it's atomic. Atomic is like the smallest change. Yeah. Right? The smallest change in your habit that you do repetitively will counteract that negative one.
Mm-hmm. No, it will. I know it will, but it just...
But it's daunting.
Yeah. Because I always think about things in the bigger picture and not like the step 1, 2, and 3. Like I'm always like, all right, I have 10 steps, but this is what it's going to look like after these 10 steps. But oh my God, these 10 steps are going to take me 2 years. I don't want to fucking do it. Fuck it. I don't want to do this. And I always do that to myself. I always like talk myself out of things. The minute it sounds like if I promise you, if it wasn't for Peggy, this would not be a part. Because she's on like, we're doing it, and the minute I agree to it, she's like, okay, bet, we have an email, we have a name, we have this, we have that, and I'm like, I told you yes 5 minutes ago.
Slow down.
I don't know, that's just the thing about me. The moment I put my mind on something, I just go full speed. Yeah. And my boyfriend be like, you know, Wilson, but like they like to call him. He's like, babe, just chill. Like let's plan, just chill. I'm like, no, we just gotta do this. And if we do this, we don't gotta waste time. He's like, he's more of the relaxed one. I'm more like, no, we gotta do this. We gotta leave on time. We gotta do
Peggy
this.
does it crazy because she'll text him like, I need the videos. I was like, bitch. I told you you're gonna get it in 2 days. And like,
so
and I haven't explained to her like what I was doing that would cause me to have to push it 2 days out. But in her head, she's like, okay, we spoke about this video a week ago, and I still don't have a video, so let me remind her. I'm just sending you a friendly reminder. I'm like, these reminders are pissing me off. Stop sending them to me. But to be fair, like she knows me enough to know like I gotta remind her regardless. She's gonna be mad. She's gonna be mad, but she's gonna do what I asked for.
Jessica gets busy.
Oh my god!
Yeah.
She gets busy sometimes with work, and sometimes she be getting home a little late because she has to stay a little later.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay. When I do text her those reminders, she'll say, "Listen, I got backed up at work with meetings or whatever, so I'll give it to you tomorrow." I'm like, all right, cool. I'll back off. I'll wait till she sends it to me.
But if tomorrow come and go and I don't got it, she'll take the day after. So that videos, I was like, fuck. But I'm more like frustrated when she does that. I'm more frustrated with myself. I'm not really frustrated with her.
Right.
I'm like, Jessica, you gave her a deadline. You gave her an end date, and you still didn't produce it.
Yeah.
Because in your head, she plans like 3 or 4 days ahead, right? So when she's asking for this video, it's 3 or 4 days out. So I'll wait till the day before. I'm like, we still got like 3 or 4 days.
All right, this is not like for me to say it to you.
No,
but it is for me to say it to you, but not to you. It's like to the world.
Mm-hmm.
Procrastination happens because our mind is elsewhere, right? Our mind is elsewhere because we don't have an outlet for it.
Yeah.
You say you got your friends.
Yeah.
But your friends can't help you dig deep.
No.
Right?
No,
they can't.
I always.
What?
No, go ahead.
I've said it before.
No, I'm just saying they can't help you the way a therapist would be able to help you because, again, bias is not something we want. We're not like, oh, I'm going to be biased because I love you.
Yeah.
Like, it is something that is just naturally a
It
blockage.
is. Yes.
Right? So, like, I'll have, like, my dearest soul sister who will come to me to talk, right? And, like, it's like, yo, I can't be a therapist. Like, I can't see it.
Yep.
What you're saying right now, I can't see that.
Right.
You know, I'll talk to her because you're my sis. But at the end of the day, I'm always like, get a therapist. You need a therapist. Like,
and she has or hasn't.
Not yet. She will though, right?
Girl, we here. We are here. I feel you. I understand you.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. No.
She'll get there. She'll get there. Yeah.
You're right. You're 100% right. Like I'm one of 9 siblings. Well, to be fair, one of 11. But I managed 9. I was 8, and so it's always something. Like. It's always something.
Yeah.
And I chose this. I actually really enjoy being there for them. Like, it's not like I'm never complaining about being there for them. I just need to learn how to prioritize myself just a little bit more. Like, there's never a moment where I'm like, oh, she's calling me. Never. But when it's done and I've helped them, I sit back like, oh, you had 10 things to do today, you didn't do it, and now I'm angry with myself.
Can't forget about yourself, though.
Yeah, no, and that's 100%. Like, you heard my future sister-in-law at the birthday. My cousin decided to embarrass me and make everyone at the party say one thing about me today, like love, like whatever. And she was like, she's like, I love that this year you prioritize yourself just a little more. She's like, I know you're the older sister, I'm the older sister. We have this really bad habit of always being there for everyone else and not for ourselves. She's like, but I did notice this year you've prioritized yourself just a little bit more. And I was like, girl, I didn't think I was, but thank you.
Yeah. See, but that's what they're good for, right? Yeah. They're good to call out your more personable qualities, right? Like, they can see your growth, and that's amazing. It's good to have supports. Like, I think the number was like 75%, don't quote me on that, of like, your true process to like really dealing with your stuff is your support network. We always go to who got you, like who do you talk to? Do you talk to anybody outside of here? Because we only see each other once a week.
Right.
Yep. Yeah. 100%.
Yeah, I love my job. Right.
Yeah.
I know when you guys just like identify one of the 3 things because I watch your show. I knew y'all were gonna ask that, so I'm really trying to. And then I was like, okay, I love my job. But then when he's like, you can't include job, it's like, damn. Like you don't hear that too often. People loving that. Like I would look forward, and this is why I said, let me start my day at a time that is where I can actually be there and be present and be there. I can't do 8 o'clock. I can't do 7 o'clock sessions. Don't ask me. I'm not doing anything before 9 a.m. because
Yeah.
my mind is not on you.
Yeah.
My mind will be on my kids.
Yep.
It'll be on what I have to do throughout the day. Like, I'm doing my to-do list. Like, my mind is not focused on that, right? So you have to, like, really understand where you are at mentally, right? Meeting yourself there, right? We oftentimes, we're 10 steps ahead.
Yeah.
Oh
Why?
God.
Why are we there? Like,
Why am I
we
do
can't even
that
see it.
So bad. It's so bad.
I've been doing this all my life.
Hence
Planning
why you want to
ahead.
retire at 40. Like, I've already planned it. It's happening.
No, I've been doing this since I was a kid. I mean, I get part of it is like, ooh, I dream of this because I want this. Like, I literally was playing like, oh, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do this. A lot of the stuff that I dreamed and aspired to be, that's not happening, and not in a negative way, because things turned out the way they were supposed to. You know, I thought I was gonna be a nurse or a doctor because I was so fascinated with the human body. I still am. But the amount of schooling, hell no. The fact that I have to see guts and blood, especially depending the specialty, no. Even as a nurse, do I want to go through the clinical stage of seeing someone actually push out another human being? No. So I was like, I'm going to check out on that and focused on history. I love history, love to learn about the past and how I can, when you know about your past, you can divert a lot of things pertaining to your future. And people always say, history's so boring. I'm like, well, if we understood history, a lot of the shit that's happening now, we would not be going through it again because we saw what happened. Let's divert ourselves from doing it again. But a lot of times, we always hear that thing, like, nothing's new under the sun, and it's so true. And there's history to everything. History of mental health. Like, who would have thought? Like, the way science has advanced at understanding the human brain as a whole, and not diverting it because of, okay, this is what African-American brain should look like, or white brain. And there was racism in science and health as well, till this day. But understanding the history that we learn from them, like, okay, clearly, there's no difference in the brain when it comes to your race. Now, your experiences and your environment does affect your brain.
In your DNA. Is
Yes.
DNA part of that as well? Like, how your brain is...
Yeah, DNA always has a part to play, right? That's just a part of you. You know, you can't take that away. Like, even sometimes there'll be like certain diagnoses where you'll see, oh, it's because your parents had this, or you're likely to get this because they had this.
What's something that would transfer over to your child if you had like what's some is bipolar like?
I believe bipolar is one because oftentimes we ask the question, did your parents what was the diagnosis of your parents? Did they ever seek attention for it or anything like that? I can't go down the list of what exactly, but like that is definitely one that I remember people being like, oh, like, did your parents have that? Like, do you have that?
Can that skip you though? Like, if your parents had it, do you necessarily?
I don't know if it skips.
I'm curious.
You know what I think too? A lot of things that, if you are a person who is bipolar, sometimes the child may think they are because they see behaviors and they imitate them.
Yep.
Right? So it gets hard. I mean, not certain characteristics of it, obviously, like they say like a sleep pattern, like a kid, just because they see that you're sleeping off, like they're eventually gonna knock out. You know? But like they will have these habits where they're up all night and now they're sleeping probably 5, 6 a.m. Right? Because they're so like, it's too busy in this house. Like mom's up here cleaning, like I can't sleep, you know? So like now they've adopted a particular behavior. Right. So
when you go to school, when you were in school, excuse me, to become a therapist, a licensed therapist, do they bring up history a lot? And like in your studies, like when they were like, all right, for you to better understand the brain, you have to understand like.
More in like undergrad.
Yeah.
So undergrad, you have like obviously your gen eds that you have to take, and then it's once you're into your master's level. So for the actual to become not licensed, because there's another step to become licensed after you graduate, which they barely talk about. But I got dreams and goals to help people with that. But anyway, so like when it comes to like history, we do, but in undergrad, not so much during the master's program.
One of my colleagues, funny, she was my psychology and English teacher, and then now she's my colleague, she's still working there. I'm like, girl, you need to retire. But she was telling me the other day, because I had asked her, she's like, oh no, you watched the Jeffrey Dahmer thing? I'm like, yes I did. She's like, I just can't do it. So she was saying like along to the effects of, there's certain things that we probably do have, but it just takes that one thing to trigger it, to turn it on. So she said, you are probably schizophrenic, but nothing has triggered that element in you. And we pray it never does. But she's like, there's certain things that trigger that, that probably was passed along from your parents, but you haven't offset it. Just like diabetes and high blood pressure, that you realize how sick your parents were and you've been taking the healthy route to avoid it. And certain things you really literally cannot avoid, but you've taken the healthy steps to avoid getting high blood pressure or being diagnosed with diabetes, as opposed to, eating all the junk or unhealthy stuff that can lead to early diagnosis of that. But she said there's certain things that, naturally as humans we have, but it just takes that. She's like, why do you think certain people, you're like, one day he just snapped.
Yeah.
It's like, it took that one thing that his brain could not handle anymore, and you went and lost your mind. So that's why I used to find it interesting when people said, I literally blacked out and I did not know that I laid this person out. I just saw that I was handcuffed. I'm like, you didn't know? You didn't see your fist connected to... Some people literally have blackouts, and I never could understand that. Like, and they say sometimes the way to your brain protecting you, but I don't know how true that was.
Yeah, no, it does. It legit. Remember when you talked about the freezing? Yeah. Also, your brain's protecting you.
Okay.
Sometimes it just doesn't know how to respond, right? Because like I said, your brain and your body is trying to connect. So sometimes we have a thought, right? Whatever that thought is going to lead to a feeling. Then from the feeling is the behavior. That is literally the process of how we move, right? You think about it, and then you feel whatever you feel, and now you have a behavior off of it. Sometimes there's such a disconnect that, like, it's not like you jump automatically to behaviors, because that's not possible. That's not how we process things. But like someone who blacks out, it's like the thought, feeling, behavior happens so fast. It's like, whoop, right? And whereas other people, it's a slow process. Am I gonna punch this person right now because they just said what they said?
Like
no, I probably shouldn't. I ain't trying to go get jail. My kids, what they gonna do? Like, you have all these thoughts right before that. But I bet you, if it pertains to my kids, I probably would black out. It just depends with the situation, what's happening. Right? It just, I think all that, you have to consider everything.
That's why they have the concept of premeditated murder. You had the time to think about it, as opposed to something happened, you just react.
That's probably why, what we're talking about, what's his name? Some Dahmer, whatever. Jeffrey Dahmer. See, I don't even want to remember his name. But even for him, like, that's why he's like, I'm not crazy. Like, he literally thought about it. Like, this is what I'm going to do tonight. I see this person in this club. I want them. Right? And it's like, this is what I'm going to do.
Would you have been excited to have him as a patient?
Absolutely not.
Girl, no.
That's why I'm not in that specialty.
Okay. No. I often wonder about, like, forensic psychologists. I'm like, you like digging deep into, like...
It's interesting.
Don't
get me
wrong.
It is
interesting.
It's so interesting.
To make sure to honestly know, like... Because I'm interested in it. I never want to get into that profession, but I always found it interesting, like, what makes this person's brain click off to do these things? And I'm like, I would never, unless I have to defend myself, or when it comes to my children, like when that time I have to defend for my child, that's the only moment. But this person wakes up and we're like, yeah, I'm gonna do that today, like.
But this is the thing, right? We constantly seek a reward. Atomic have a talk about that too. He need a baby. But anyways, honestly, like, we constantly seek a reward. That's why they asked him when he was in front of, like, at the jail, like, do you get off? Like, what happens? Like, and for him, he does, right? He gets off on that. Like, it's a reward for him. So and again, addictive behaviors, we constantly seek that, whatever that is. So, and that even works with our negative behaviors and our negative habits. It could be positive or negative. It doesn't matter. If it's something that you keep on doing and you want to stop, understand what is the reward at the end of it. What are you getting out of it? And if it's something you want to stop, what else can you do in place of that so that you're not doing it in that manner?
I need to do that when I need to lose weight, because my addiction is chocolate and ice cream. And Wilson be looking at me, babe, I thought you said you wanted to lose 10 pounds. I'm like, shh.
Like, mind your business.
It's that time of the month. I don't want to hear it. Let me be. And and I know, like, instead of eating the ice cream, let me eat the fruit. I'm like, yeah, but the strawberry ain't gonna hit the spot for the ice cream. So, see, you saying that part, I instantly thought, like, okay, that's me when I say I want to lose the weight, but then I'll go to a restaurant. Some days I'll order the salmon. Other than, I'm like, can I get that porterhouse steak with the mashed potato and the lobster tail?
No veggies on her plate?
No veggies. I hate veggies. And I'll do that. and I'll be satisfied. I'm happy. Like it triggers that.
Yep. That reward.
That reward.
Yep.
Oh my god!
But I feel like eating vegetables ain't gonna do the same thing.
It's not for you anyways. For me, maybe. But I remember there's another person. I don't want to mistitle her. She does some form of therapy, more holistic, whatever. And she always talks about our association with food, and like how some people like binge eat or like don't care to eat healthy or diet whenever they're in like unhealthy stage in their life. And so she's always talking about like don't force feed your kids, and our parents like you're gonna eat it, you're gonna eat that food, and
you have
if
to
don't
sit
eat
there.
it, you can sleep next to the plate, you can do whatever you need to do, but you're gonna finish that food. And it's like as an adult, like you don't separate. We're like, all right, I'm not hungry, so I'm not gonna eat because your parent was like, you're gonna eat because you eat all day, but I just told you I'm not hungry.
And I get told, if you don't eat, you're gonna die. That's what my father used to tell me. And now he says, well, that's what I had to say to get you to eat. But I was like, I wasn't hungry.
It just blows my mind the more and more I have conversations with people about like things that our parents, like their intentions weren't ill, but it's created this person that you are now that you have to kind of like break from. But just like
it took a process.
Association with food and like how that happens, how you confront uncomfortable situations. Like for me, I don't know how to speak up for myself a lot of the times. So I'm always like shutting down. I remember in every relationship that I've ever been in, they always like, I don't even know who you are. And I'm like, good.
Keep it
Because
going.
in my head, because I'm so private.
Oh, okay.
Like I could be in I was in a 4-year relationship and he couldn't tell you a lot of the stuff. And then I get mad at them for not knowing.
Well, you didn't tell me anything.
Yeah, and I like more recent, I was kind of analyzing my most recent breakup, and I was like, I was there for him in all these like major life instances, trauma, happiness, everything, and I can tell you from start to finish. But can he do the same for me? Like, was he there for me in like specific areas in my life where I needed someone? But then I had to also take accountability and be like, Jessica, but did you provide the space for him to know?
Oh, that's important.
And so I do that a lot, and I know that's one thing that I need to work on. Because I complain about people not being there for me, but everyone knows that Jessica, you're so private, you don't tell nobody shit.
Yeah, they don't even know what's going on.
She suffers.
And then when they do, and then when they do ask like how's everything doing, I give them the blanket. Oh, everything's good.
Yeah.
Because I don't even want to deep dig into that. Like I don't even want to.
So your therapist would be able to call bluff.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. I'm like, I'm fine. I don't know any therapist when they hear I'm fine. All right, cool. So I'm gonna need this whole notebook because you're not fine. You're here today.
Or like I'm fine. Okay, great. Anyway, so what happened this week?
What happened this week? And then yeah.
They're like, okay, I'm not fine. Yeah, I know. So
I know.
Let's
talk about it.
We got an hour, girl.
Yeah. I yeah.
So, I wanted to say, like, we truly appreciate you coming today. Might need you for part 2. Because mental health and knowing how our brain works and how it protects us and why we do the things we do. But I also said, like, I've heard it a few times here and there growing up when people's like, well, especially now more so late 20s going to early 30s, mid 30s. And even older adults, well, that's just the way I am. And it's like, I realize that's no longer an excuse. Like, we get it. We've dealt with traumas. We didn't know how to process it. And mental health wasn't being pushed. Now we know what has happened. And we know what the trauma is. And we see how it affects us and how it affects people around us. I feel like you get to a certain age, you have to take on the responsibility to try to heal and try to do better. But I know that's really upon the person. You can't force someone to go get therapy or get the help that they need. And you, at the same time, if you love that person, you don't want them to self-destruct either.
Right.
So it's like, I tell people I can't accept that line from you. That's just the way you are, because no, that's not, I don't want to say that's not normal, but that's not healthy for you. The way you react to certain things, or why do you think it's okay for you to be rude just to explain a simple fact? Like, I don't know if you remember that line I told you is like, oh, I'm sorry to tell you the harsh truth, but it's like, why as friends we have to say that? Just be honest with your friends. It doesn't necessarily have to be harsh.
I think it has something to do with you knowing your friend enough to know that they're not going to receive what you're about to tell them.
True.
in like this is a loving conversation.
And also, like you just said earlier, are you even creating that space for your friend to feel comfortable to do that?
That's also
exactly.
true. Yeah.
If you're not doing that, they're going to feel like they have to say that. Like, I know how you get, so
Yes.
can I be? Is it okay if I say this?
Right.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh,
I have
okay.
friends who I'm like, she can't handle that level of honesty or like that bluntness that I typically give people who I know can receive it and not feel attacked. So I honestly cater to like how my friends will receive things. I'm gonna give you the message, but it's just in the way I package it.
Well, I need to learn how to do that because I haven't.
You just gotta observe your friends.
I'm just, and my friends are like, it's the tone, Peggy. Before we close out, what would you want our viewers and people who are going to be listening to this episode, what would you like for them to know in the realm of therapy and mental wellness?
Or help them seek therapy.
Yes.
Honestly, that if you want to have a relationship with your parents, with your siblings, with your friends, with your partners, you need therapy.
Yes.
Like, I'm not even saying that because I'm a therapist. I'm just saying that because that is life.
Yeah.
Like, we go through way too many things, situations, hardships to not process it with a professional.
Yeah.
Like I said, if you're sick and you're in bed, the first thing you're doing is calling your doctor.
Yeah.
You don't know if they even have your best interest, but your therapist has your best interest.
Yeah.
Like, it's a whole different dynamic. It's not like, oh, I'm about to lay up on the table and this person's gonna open me up. Like,
Yep.
and that's the most uncomfortable thing.
Yes.
And this ain't trying to have a whole conversation.
Yeah.
Yep.
No.
Like,
Full conversation
stop.
while you're in the past being like, yeah, so by the way, I'm like,
Yeah,
maybe-
like, no, I'd be like, this ain't the time. I got a therapist. Like,
Yeah.
we ain't doing that. But your you can do that, right? With that therapist, and know that that person has your best interest. Know that they're not judging you, and we're not here for that, right?
Yeah.
Like, you guys are literally paying us to listen.
Yeah.
So if your therapist, or if you had a bad experience where you had a therapist that wasn't listening to you or that wasn't understanding of your situation, you have a plethora
Yep.
amount of people that you can contact. You do
So
not
good.
have to stop at that one.
Yeah.
That's like saying I was with somebody, they effed me over, and now I don't want nobody in my life.
Yeah.
It's not possible. Well, it is possible for people who
Yeah.
want that, but
Yeah.
genuinely, like, you don't want that. You're gonna be like, okay, I need to heal, and I'm moving on.
Yeah.
Right.
And sometimes it's okay to heal from a therapist that
Right.
wasn't it. And once you're done doing that, you move forward and you're like, okay, I'm gonna continue. Never think you're repeating yourself. That's another thing.
Yep.
I hear that all the time. I don't want any therapist. I'm gonna have to repeat myself. Why? That literally means you're starting from where you started before, and that's not the case. You're starting from where you're at today. As of today, moving forward, you're in a whole different place. So when people tell me that, I'm like, wow, that must be for this like past year or two. You did nothing.
I'm guilty of that. I think I said that, but not realizing I made some improvements.
Right.
Because I actually like her, and I personally do not want to switch
Right.
off because she's getting me to a place where I haven't been able to get to.
Mm.
Like, I started with a therapist at 26. It was working, but it wasn't clicking because I felt like she couldn't relate. This one, I feel like I can be myself. I can curse, I can say, like, I'm constantly have to, like, code switch and do all this other stuff. And, she's asking me questions because she herself is a black woman. And, the experiences that we may share as black women, women of color, I'm like, I couldn't express that with the white women. Like, I'm not saying she wasn't a good therapist, but she wasn't going to understand that concept. Like, I understand as women, we have certain things that we understand that we're not viewed the same level as men in the workplace. I get that. But when it comes to my color now, adding on top of me being
There's
a
another
woman,
element
it's
of
another
being-
element that she wouldn't understand.
Right.
But I love the fact that people feel like getting out of the stigma that something has to be wrong with you to go seek therapy.
Yeah. Oh my God, that is a cultural thing too.
Nothing has to be wrong with you. And you'll discover, like how Jessica mentioned earlier, there's things that she suppressed that she don't remember. And there's certain things that, I'm not saying the therapist will ask you those pertaining questions that's going to open up that memory that your brain trying to suppress. Over time, like you mentioned, you might feel comfortable enough and you start opening up, and then the therapist will start asking questions to dig a little deeper. And they're not gonna hit you with the thing the first day. They're trying to get to know you and see where you're at and meet you there. That's the process of a therapist. Like, they're not there to be your best friend like your friend would be. They're like you said, we're paying you to listen to us and help guide us throughout this crazy world. And since now more than ever, we're exposed to social media, we're exposed to a lot of things that we weren't exposed to that much 20, 30 years ago. You know, a lot of things you would find it on the news and you're like, oh, okay. But now we're so engrossed and it's a part of our lives, social media, which can be used for good and also bad, that you also need help with processes that. You don't know if the image that you saw of another black man getting shot, it may have not physically affected you, but you don't know how it did affect your brain. You just don't realize it. And now you sitting there talking to the therapist, you realize, oh shit, that did affect me a certain way. Now I look at things differently. But off that to say, therapy is a good thing. It shouldn't be viewed negatively. And I know cultural dynamics plays a role in that. Race may play a role. Your funds may play a role because not having enough money to cover, especially if that therapist you really want doesn't take your insurance. But still dig deeper. Do a little bit more research. Just as much you do the research to find a job, a better paying job, or a school for your child, or a better place to live, do the same thing with your therapist. Like, I said this before in one of my PD meetings. I'm like, we recognize when our body's not right. You know, the heart is important, your stomach is important. If they don't feel right, you go to the doctor. But your brain is also an organ, and I think people forget that. The brain can be sick too. So the same way we will rush to the doctor to find what we can do to take care of ourselves, to make our heart better or whatever that's pain, feel better, we need to do the same for the brain. Like, pain doesn't necessarily mean like a headache. Your brain, once your brain is affected, the body follows. So until you get the brain right, the body will never feel the same. So you have to tie in your mental health with your overall health.
Girl,
therapy, y'all.
First off, that was a lot for Becky. Thank you for ending it like that. No,
Yes.
and thank you for joining us. I'm like so excited. I can't wait to end this episode.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be like grinning the whole time. Like, oh my god.
Did I ever say my name?
Yeah, you did.
You did in the
Okay.
beginning. Yes.
Okay, I'm like,
Sure.
I thought I'm like, damn.
No, you definitely did. Right when you was about to say 3 things about
Okay.
yourself, you definitely said your name.
Okay.
But again, we appreciate you guys for catching us on this episode, and we hope to see you guys soon.
Bye.
Bye.